The dual dopamine hypothesis is centered around 4 pathways in the brain: the mesolimbic, mesocortical, nigrostriatal, and tuberoinfundibular. In patients who suffer from schizophrenia, it's thought that there's too much dopamine activity in the mesolimbic pathway. This causes the positive symptoms of schizophrenia, symptoms such as hallucinations and delusions. On the other hand, too little dopamine activity in the mesocortical pathway is thought to be the reason for the negative symptoms of schizophrenia, such as anhedonia and alogia. There are 2 other dopamine-mediated pathways that we need to observe. The nigrostriatal pathway mediates, for example, movement, but which in drug-naive patients with schizophrenia is thought to be mostly unaffected. And the tuberoinfundibular pathway, which is also thought to be unaffected, and regulates hormone release, for example, prolactin. Generally, atypical antipsychotics work by blocking dopamine receptors in all 4 pathways. At the same time, to halt this action from stopping all dopamine activity in these pathways, they also work by blocking serotonin 5-HT2A receptors. Blockade of serotonin 5-HT2A receptors, primarily in the nigrostriatal pathway, causes more dopamine to be released. This competes for the receptor sites, allowing some activity to treat the negative symptoms of schizophrenia and reduce the likelihood of extrapyramidal side effects and hyperprolactinemia. Abilify is the first dopamine system stabilizer or partial agonist. It has a unique mode of action to address the dual dopamine pathology. It binds to dopamine receptors, but unlike its atypical predecessors, it doesn't block the activity of these receptors. Instead, by having its own intrinsic activity, Abilify causes a reduced but functional level of activity to occur. This means that in the overactive mesolimbic pathway, it will reduce activity and thus treat positive symptoms. In the mesocortical pathway, where previously there had been little activity, Abilify increases the level of activity, treating the negative symptoms simultaneously. This is the first time this has been done in a direct mode of action. Abilify, like atypicals, also binds to dopamine receptors in the nigrostriatal and tuberoinfundibular pathways. But importantly, as it has its own activity, it allows continued function in these areas. All atypical antipsychotics have binding to other receptor sites that contribute to their clinical picture and tolerability. These include histamine binding, which causes possible sedation and weight gain, alpha-adrenergic binding, which causes possible sedation, hypertension and weight gain, and also M1 muscarinic receptors, which cause possible anticholinergic side effects and memory impairment. Unlike its atypical counterparts, Abilify has moderate or low affinity for histamine, alpha-adrenergic and muscarinic receptor sites. Abilify takes approximately 14 days to achieve steady state. During the onset of Abilify, some transient side effects may be observed that are a result of its receptor profile and the transition of activity at the dopamine receptor sites. It's also to be noted that the withdrawal effects of previous atypical receptor binding may be evident during the onset period.